There's a moment in every great survival story where desperation forces invention. On the battlefields of World War II, that moment came every time a soldier looked down at his empty canteen and realized the nearest clean water source might be miles away or well gone entirely. Thirst didn't care about rank, courage or strategy. It crept in during long marches, during sweltering North African patrols, during island raids in the Pacific. Men could go days dodging bullets, but only hours without water. So the question became brutally simple. How did millions of soldiers manage to drink safely long before we had fancy filters, chemical tablets or UV pens? The answer is one of the most practical, overlooked survival techniques ever used in wartime. A method discovered out of necessity, perfected in the field, and still just as effective today. If you've ever wondered what happens when survival knowledge replaces modern gear, stay right here. This is a piece of history you can use the next time you're camping, off-grid, or facing an emergency. So settle in, because for the next minute, you're about to learn a piece of forgotten wartime wisdom that turned filthy puddles into life itself. By 1942, soldiers across 3 continents faced a threat far deadlier than enemy patrols. Contaminated water killed faster than combat, incapacitating entire units with dysentery, typhoid, cholera, and every parasite that thrives in stagnant pools. Medical supply lines stretched thin, purification tablets spoiled in tropical humidity, metal filters clogged or broke. Clean water wasn't a given, it was a daily fight for survival. So troops, Allied and Axis, adapted. They fell back on a method rooted in basic geology and chemistry, something explorers, homesteaders, and even ancient civilizations had relied on for centuries. It was simple, crude, and absolutely brilliant. Sand filtration, followed by boiling with charcoal. The first step began in the soil itself. Instead of scooping directly from a lake or swamp, soldiers dug a small pit a short distance from the water's edge. Never inside it. Never where contamination was highest. They let the earth do the first layer of work. Groundwater slowly seeped through the sand, gravel and soil into the hole, leaving behind debris, algae, insects and some bacteria. Within minutes or hours, a pool formed, visibly clearer than the source. It wasn't perfect, but it was a starting point. And in war, a starting point often meant the difference between a fighting chance and a ruined stomach. Once collected, the water went into mess tins or canteens where soldiers added something almost always available: charcoal. Not fancy activated carbon from a lab. Just charred wood scraped from the bottom of a fire. When crushed, this charcoal acted as a natural absorbent, binding toxins, foul tastes, and chemical residues. Then the mixture was brought to a rolling boil. Heat killed living pathogens. Charcoal trapped many of the non-living threats. Together, the 2 steps produced water that was shockingly clean for something made in the dirt under enemy pressure. What soldiers built instinctively became the basis of the activated carbon filters we use today in high-end purifiers. The same chemistry behind Brita pitchers and ceramic gravity filters was at work in foxholes long before those companies existed. Modern bushcrafters have tested this technique against commercial filters, and honestly, the results speak for themselves. Sand seepage, followed by a charcoal boil, produces clear, safe, drinkable water. Now, it won't remove every trace of heavy metals, but in a field survival scenario, it gets you well above the safety line and keeps you hydrated, without that chemical taste of tablets or the slow trickle you get from solar stills. Most importantly, the materials are everywhere. Dirt, sand, wood, fire, heat. You could, replicate this method in your backyard, on a hiking trail, or even after a major power outage, with nothing more than basic household scraps. So, to begin, find a spot near a lake or riverbank and dig a hole about 1 to 2 feet deep. Let the water seep in naturally, then scoop it carefully so you don't disturb the sediment. Next, crush some charcoal from a recent fire until it's gritty. Add that to your pot or canteen, pour in the filtered water, and bring it to a full boil for at least 10 minutes. When it cools, pour it through a cloth if you have one. What you're left with is clean, reliable drinking water created entirely through Fieldcraft, not technology. It's really quite remarkable how often the past reminds us that survival isn't about having the right gear. It's about knowledge. World War II soldiers didn't have purification kits or high-tech membranes. What they had was a working relationship with the natural world and, well, a willingness to experiment. They understood that the earth itself could be part of their equipment. This water method wasn't a gimmick. It kept men alive from Burma to Sicily to the Sahara. And today it's just as relevant for campers, homesteaders, preppers, and, honestly, anyone who values self-reliance. If you want to strengthen your own preparedness, try it yourself. Dig a seep pit, crush charcoal, boil, and taste the difference. Once you've done it once, you'll never forget how, and that knowledge will stay with you long after batteries die and store shelves empty. If you want more forgotten battlefield skills you can actually use, make sure you subscribe to Warfront Survival. Like the video, share it with someone who loves history, and hit the bell so you never miss the survival wisdom that kept heroes alive.